Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And a very good evening to Professor Saidi and our fellow friends. First of all, I would like to greeting Happy Deepavali, especially to Guna. I know now you are in holiday mood, okay? But today we have to discuss about the big data analytics impact on the security, privacy, and trust. So on my topic, I took one article from the internet, which is from the ftms.edu.my, which highlighted of the security challenges in big data. Okay, these are the outlines that we will be discuss about the security, privacy, and trust. Okay, the challenge of in big data. Okay, we have an introduction, general challenges of big data, security challenges for big data, privacy challenges for big data, trust challenges for big data, and also wrap up with some conclusion about it. Okay, next slide is about the introductions. Okay. Um, Big data is the term given to a collection of data with a so large and complex that database management system is difficult to process. It is a massive amount of digital information and the government sector to collect about the human beings and our environments. So it is an exponential growth of the structures and unstructured data analyzed for faster decision making. Okay, so we have some problem on the data problem. So the problem is when the big data difficult to work is using a relational database management system and desktop visualizations and static packages. So it requires instead a massively parallel software running 100,000 of servers. So the huge attention to big data is getting more and more complicated with the data set of related data as compared to smaller separate set with some total amount of data. So the data concept. The data concept, which is like data warehousing, and we are using the OLAPS and OLTP distributions database and parallel database. So in recent years, big data has been leading this trend due to the enormous result produced by the analysis of the large database. Okay, until now, so the big data has been used by the government and large organizations only who can afford the members' infrastructures needed to analyze and to process disasters and tsunami of data surging in. So now we are going to the general challenges of the big data. So here I have 4 points about the heterogeneity and the incompleteness, scales, timeless, human collaboration. So we go one by one. So about the heterogeneity and incompleteness. Okay, actually data must be carefully structured as the first steps in data analysis. So for example, a good example will be a patient in the hospital who has one recent medical report, okay, and then the record for this operations, one record for each admissions at the hospital, and a record lifetime hospital intervention with the patients. So the number of surgical operations and the lab tests record will be different for each patient. The three design choices has successfully less structures and conservatively successfully greater variety. So the point here, so they're pointing out about the acquisition of the big data from the various sources with a variety of structuring these data is more impossible before the data to be analysis. So the second one about the scales. Okay, definitely it has to be worried about the size when it comes with big data. So managing large and rapidly increases volume of data has been an issue. Okay, so the challenges was earlier handled by a developed faster processor to cope with the increasing volume of data. However, the data volume is scaling faster than a computer resources and CPU speed is static. Instead of processor doubling its clocking cycle frequently every 18 to 24 months due to the power constraints, clock speeding, it has largely stalled and process develop more cores. So for example, so power consideration like prohibited us from efficiently using all of the hardware in a system continuously. So, forcing a data system to actively manage to the power consumption of the processor, so hence processing us to rework how we design, build, and operate data processing component. So the third one is about the timeline. The opposition of our size in processing is indeed the speed. True is not designing a system that effectively deal with the size to produce a system that can be processed data faster. That is usually meant when one speak of velocity in the context of big data. Rather, it is start acquisition rate challenge. The fourth one is about the human collaboration. Ideally, the big data analytic will definitely have a human in the loop. However, it often requires multiple experts from diverse domain to easily understand what is going on. These experts might be dispersed in various locations. So we are using the new method like crowdsourcing, has example like Wikipedia and also an encyclopedia. So now we are going to the challenges. That's my security. So we are going to the security challenges for big data. Okay. In security, big data is magnified by actually now 7V. We call it 7V. Okay. 7V. The first V, um, 7V. The first V about the volume. So volume is how much data we have. What used to measure in gigabyte is now measured in zettabytes, ZB, or even on your terabytes. It's very big. The second V is about the velocity. Velocity is referring to the speed which is the data is accessible. Okay, the third one is a variety. The variety will describe one of the biggest challenges of the big data. It can be instructed and it can be include so many different type of data from XMLs to the video or to the SMS. So in organizing the data in meaningful ways, it is a simple task, especially when the data itself changes rapidly. So the fourth one is about the variability. Variability is different from variety. For example, uh, like a coffee shop may offer a 6 different blend of coffee, but if you if you get some blend every day and it tastes different every day, so that is variability. So the same is true of data. If the meaning is constantly changing, it can have a huge impact on your data organizations. So the fifth one about the veracity. This is a new one, veracity. It's all about making sure the data in accurate, which require processes to keep the bad data from accumulating in the system. The simple example is contact that enter your marketing automation system, which false name and accurate contact information. So how many times have you seen any false systems in your database? Okay, it is a classic garbage, or we call it garbage out challenge. So the sixth one is about the visualization. Nowadays, using a chart and graph to visualize large amount of complex data is more effective in conveying meaning than spreadsheets and report full of number and formula. And the last one is about the value. Okay, so the value is at the end of the game, and after addressing the volume, velocity, variability, veracity, and the visualization. So which take a lot of time, effort, and resources. So you want to be sure on your organization to get value from the data. Okay, hold on. So now we are going to the infrastructure attack. Okay, so in these infrastructure attacks, normally a big data process a huge usually data depends on the underlying cloud infrastructure to operate. So here I will list down about the secure computation in distributed program programming framework, which is a secure computation in distributed programming framework, which is about the computation and storage is used by the distributed programming framework to process massive amount of data. Okay, for example, now you can see from the map that reduce architecture. So the map reduce framework split an input file into a multiple chunk. So MapReduce uses two phases. Firstly, a mapper for each chunk read the data, perform computation, and output a list of a key pair. Then secondly, a reducer combines the key belonging to each distinct keys and output the result. So hence inviting two major attack. So they are trying to securing the mappers and securing the data in the presence of an instructed mapper. So the fact is, so with the large data set, it's nearly impossible to identify a malicious mapper that might be create damage. So we can further break down to the threat to the mapper into the three ways, which is the number one is about the malfunctions computer workers node, and then the second method is about the infrastructure attacks, and the third one is about the root data nodes. So the root data nodes can be added to a cluster and subsequently receive replicated data or output alter the map reduced code. This is quite easy to attack in a cloud, especially in cloud and virtual environment, and it is difficult to detect. So the second point is about the security best practice for non-relational data storage. So I have list down about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 point here. There's below are the 6 major threat scenario of no number of SQL databases. So we go one by one. Okay, transactional integrity. So the number SQL most visible drawback. It is a soft approach towards transactions integrity, enforcing complex integrity constraints into the architecture. We fail the number of equal primary objective. It's about the performance and also the scalability. So the second one is about the lax authentications. So generally, number of sequels use a weaker authentication techniques and weak password storage mechanism. Okay, the third one is about the insufficient authorization mechanism. So they're using the different number of SQL solution to have their different authorization techniques. So they may know solutions offer authorization at a higher layer rather than enforcing authorization at lower layer. Okay, next is about the susceptibility to inject attacks. So they try to use the backdoor access to the file systems and the malicious activity that can be allowed by is to employ injection techniques like array injection, view injection, REST injection, and so on and so forth. Next, about the lack of consistency. It is impossible to simultaneously enforce all three elements of the capitalism. Okay, CAP theorem. What is CAP? Is about the consistency, availability, and also the partition tolerance. So while in distribute a mode undermine the trustworthiness of the just result, so the user are more guaranteed consistent result at any time. Okay, as the node may not be entire syncs with the node holding the latest images. The last one about the insider attacks. Okay, a proof security mechanism can be leveraged to achieve insider attack, which can go unnoticed if no proper logging and log analysis method is employed along with other rudimentary security mechanism. Okay, now we are talking about the privacy challenges for big data. Okay, so here we discuss about the 3 point here. The first one about the scalability privacy, perceiving data mining and analytic. The second one is about the cryptographically enforced data-centric security, and the last one is about the granular access control. So we're going the first one. The first point is about the user collecting data, large data by the large organization that is accessed constantly by inside analysis as well as outsider contractor and also the business partner. And in untrusted partner or a malicious user can be misuse this data set and they try to extract information from customer. So from the analysis done, the company leverage data analytic for marketing purpose, including, for example, how the retailer was able to identify a teen pregnancy before her father found it. So, just anonymous data for analytic is not enough to guarantee user privacy. Okay, the second one is about the cryptographically enforced data-centric security. So the visibility data in the different entities can be controlled by two major approaches. Firstly, by limiting access to the underlying system, for example, the operating system. And then the secondly, by the encapsulating the data itself in a protective shell using the cryptography. Okay, through both approaches, they have their benefit as well as their detriment. So through the various research in the various cryptography trade models are proved to be secure in their respective model, research still is ongoing to find simple construction efficiency improvements and partially homomorphic schema that surface. The last point is about the granular access. So when it comes to the access control, the security properties that may secretly prevent to accessing the data from the people who should not have to access. However, the problem with grade access is that the data should be shared originally. It's shared into the more restrict access for security purpose. So they try to managing the legal and policy decision has hike with the price of application development output and limiting the number of people who can participate in the analysis. So they using the different protocols for tracking access restriction as well. The data are needed and should be stored in the storage systems like number of SQLs. Okay, now we are going to the third point regarding the trust and fairness challenges for the big data. So the impact. So here I will cover about the 3 points. So one about the data broker. Okay. And then the second one is about big data driven decision. And the last one is about the transparency requirement and practices. So I will cover about the consumer. Okay. About the consumer. So the first one is about the data broker. So the data broker are a good place to start with this discussion actually. So the data broker are companies to assemble individual profiles on the consumers by collecting information from far-flung resources, but typically do not interact with the consumers themselves. Through this profile, consumer can end up in marketing segment, draw along lines of races, ethics, financial status, health condition, and also sensitive characteristics. With all of this data, the inference that the data broker can draw from it, they can put the consumer into the categories or segment that has labels such as a financial challenge and so on and so forth. And then about the big data driven. So big data driven decisions. So many driven decisions are based on some kind of a score. So the number generated by an algorithm that gives some indication of what a consumer is likely to be interested in, how she or he is likely have to behave. A familiar example is like a credit score. Okay, credit score is basically predictions of how likely a consumer is to repay a debt. So the higher score, the lower is the credit risk. So in their early days, credit score were used strictly for credit decisions, whether you qualified for a mortgage, for example, and the interest rate that you will be offered. Okay, if you try to buy a car, they try to give offer a higher rate if you have more risk. Okay, over the time, the use of some credit score expanded to a major decisions about consumer, such as prospective employer will extend a job offer to applicants, or an insurance company would charge a higher premium into on auto and also the homeowner insurance. So the last one is about the transparency requirement and practices. Actually, has been good for consumer. So credit and bureaus, and also the company that rely on the credit score to make business decisions. With the transparency provided by the free credit reports and increasing score, consumer can more effectively exercise their rights to dispute and correct and incorrect information. and the true analysis of the one critical type of credit score by the American RTF, which is the Federal Reserve, made more user confident that the score was not discriminating. So today we're seeing a proliferation of other score being used to make eligibility determination covered by the Fair Credit Reporting Act. While these scores are subject to some obligation of access, accuracy, security, and also the other requirement imposed by the FCRA. So they try to use a new sources information, including information that goes beyond the traditional credit files to score consumer raises fresh questions about the whether their alternative score may have a disparate impact along racial, ethnic, or other lines in that law protect. Okay, security. Okay, we are going to a conclusion. Okay, now we are going to the conclusions. So when the big data has come to stay, so I have make a three conclusion about the data set can make better advances, and then what is the net application that will be used and the future works. Through the articles that I have read here, so they make some proper analysis about of both streaming and such static large data set that they can make better advances in many scientific and also the medical disciplines and profitability for many enterprise. It is practically impossible to imagine the next application without it's consuming the data. They try to create new form of data and containing data-driven algorithm. So as computing environments become shaper, application environments become a network and a system and analytic environment become shared over the cloud. They try to use cloud and about the security and also about the access control, compression, encryption, and also the compliance to introduce the challenge that must be addressed into the systematic way. Through this article also, they try to highlight about the top security and privacy problems that need to be addressed if they are try to make a big impact on the data on the big data processing and computing infrastructure to be more secure. So I believe this paper will this article will be spur actions in the research and development community to collaborate, focus on the barriers to make a greater security, privacy, and trust in the big data platform, and also for the future works. Okay, reference from the ftms edu.my. Okay, for further discussion, we will discuss on WhatsApp group. So any comments or any question will be asked on the WhatsApp group, and I'll try to answer. If I cannot answer, so maybe maybe I will click try to answer. So hope so we see you soon in the WhatsApp group. Okay, last but not least, okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.